Okay, I wanted to take you through this process that I use to create a nice grunge metal. It's going to take you through the process of using some roughness, procedurals for roughness, and dinging this up with some chips and stuff on it. So what we're going to be using is what's called a curvature map. Okay, a curvature map is a map that reads the surface of an object and it finds where the objects come together, okay, wherever they have an edge that come together, and then you're able to sense that edge where the geometry is coming together, and then you'll be able to put a shader along that edge. Okay, so it's a really cool thing. I've shown you how to do vertex painting where we can paint the edges, but this is one that will automatically select the edges, and so it's kind of a cool process. So I want to take you through that. Okay, so I'm kind of going to take you through and deconstruct, but this is my material that I'm putting on. So it's a blend material. I have one material that'll be my main surface, whether that's going to be a piece of metal or it could be paint too. And then I've got another material that is a grunge material. This will be like the dirt or grunge that's on it. And then we're going to blend those two together. Kind of the hero of what we're doing in here for the most part is a curvature map. So all you have to do is go up here and type in curvature, okay, and then you can pull out a curvature map. This is a Arnold. If you look at it, this is an Arnold node, so an Arnold map. So some things that we need to know about Arnold maps, okay. We're going to pull out here a cellular, and this is a 3ds Max map. So this is an Arnold map. This is a Max map. So we're going to go over here and just type Max on this, and this we're going to type Arnold on this, and then let's go and get an OSL map. We'll get like an OSL. We'll just get a noise, okay, and this is an OSL. Now OSLs say OSLs on them, and OSL stands for, it's an open shader language, so it's a universal shader language that can be used in just about any 3D software that supports it, which means that Maya, Houdini, they all support OSL, which means this particular node can be in Maya, can be in Houdini, can be in Max. This is a Max node, only exists in Max. This is an Arnold node, only exists with Arnold, okay. Now, the reason I'm covering this is there's some little things you need to understand. So you can run a Max node into an Arnold node, no problem. You can run an OSL into a Arnold node, no problem, all right? Arnold nodes are the ones that are particular. I can run an Arnold node into an OSL, that's fine. However, if I run an Arnold into a Max, it will no longer function. Okay, you cannot run an Arnold node into a Max node. It's like a dead end, and then nothing will go through here. So that is the drawback of an Arnold node, is that you can only use a Max node upstream. So a Max can go into an Arnold, but an Arnold cannot go into a Max. OSL doesn't care. Arnold doesn't care about an OSL, so Arnold can go in OSL, OSL can go in Arnold, OSL can go into a Max. The only bottleneck that you ever get into is this. You cannot do this. You cannot have an Arnold into a Max node. Will not work. Okay, so the curvature node is the node that is kind of our hero here, And so we're going to start off with just, we'll just pull out a regular physical material here. And then what I want to do is mix between two colors. So if I go in here and I get a mix map where I can mix two colors, and I normally do really bright colors to make this easy to see. So we'll go from, say, a blue to a purple, and then we're going to put that on our object. And let's do an active shade. We're going to do some active shade in this, and then we're not going to do some active shade in this. Okay, so so when I first put this on here, you'll notice that it didn't apply it. It was a gray. Okay, so what it was happening is it wasn't reading this mix node. Okay, so it was just rendering this gray. That happens every once in a while. By default, if you go to rendering, by default, Arnold is the renderer, but every once in a while it'll kind of wig out, and you have to turn it off and then turn it back on. Okay, so you'll see it's giving me the blue now. Okay. So on this node, at 100 it's showing the bottom, and at 0 it's showing the top. So we're mixing these two colors together, and of course 0.5 would be a blend between the two. Okay, so now the thing we're going to do though is we want to, the mix amount's going to be this curvature. Okay. Now, the problem that you get into is that this curvature doesn't work going through a max node. Okay, so it's just doing kind of a little blend in here. It's not really doing what we want it to do. So that's what I was talking about, is you can't really plug an Arnold node into a max node, and this mix is a max node. Okay, so we have to get a different node. Okay, so what we want to type in is RGB up here. And what we want to get is a mix RGBA. This is Arnold's version of this node. Okay. So let's just go ahead. Now, I see people use this all the time and they go, I can't get it to work. Well, the reason I can't get it to work is because it defaults having the same color in here. So when you put this mix and you go through it, you won't be able to tell because it's the same color in here. I have students ask me that all the time. Won't work. It's like, well, that's because it's working, but you have black in both of these. Okay, so we'll get rid of this. So in our particular case, when we're doing this, we're going to be using a mix RGBA. And then what we're going to be doing is using a curvature map. Okay, so by default, when you put the curvature map in, whatever is in the top, that's going to be the surface. All right, so by default, it's on convex, or you have concave. Convex is the outside. So as I start kicking up the radius, we'll start seeing blue coming out onto this surface here. Okay, so as we kick this up more, we get more out here, and this is creating what we're really going to be calling a dirt map. It's kind of creating dirt on it. Now we got this shader by default, and so it's really glossy, so we kind of want to turn that down. So I'm going to go to advanced and give us more of a rough nature to this, so we're not getting confused with reflections. And so now, right off the bat, wherever it's reading the convex, which is the outies, so to speak, that's where it's going to put it. Now I can change this to concave, and now it's going to put it in the valleys. But the way we're going to use it is you can go in here and you can tell it to do both. So we can do both, and it's going to put it on the top and the valleys. Now there are times where I might want to separate those, but for the most part we can do them together as one. Okay, so it was crunching my machine a little bit, so I turned the active shade off. I got too many things running. Okay, so when I do that though, you'll see that when I turn this to both, that it's kind of watering down what's in there, okay? And I can go in here and continue turning up this radius, but this is really not helping me to a certain degree. So I want to get another node, and so up here we're going to type in lift. And what we want to get is this lift node. Now this is a kind of, you can think of this as an amplifier. It amplifies anything going through it. So it has three attributes. It's got a lift, a gamma, and a gain. So what we're going to do is run this into here and then run this back into our mix. So we're kind of installing this to be kind of our amplifier, and then as I start kicking up the gain, then it'll start giving me my color back in. So this is kind of our amplifier, so to speak, to get our dirt map, these are always referred to as dirt maps, back on here. Now I normally, when I'm doing this, when I'm first working this all out, I work it out with just a simple shader on it, and I just do some bright colors. You can go directly in, so I could go directly into here and then render it, and it's just going to be colors, okay? I find it easier, and the reason it's colors is because it's running these into separate channels. So if I do this as just one, it'll be black and white. But it breaks them into channels, which makes it easier for doing any kind of post-processing. So that can be, that's for the convex, this is for the concave. Okay, that's, and so there are certain times I run these as separate so I can adjust them separately, but a lot of times for what we're doing, if we're doing a lot of metal parts, it probably really won't matter. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be running it to use both of these at the same time. And so what it does is it puts them into RGB channels so that I can separate these later if I want to. So this is the red channel, that's the green channel, and there's ways to separate those out. But the way we're going to be using it right now is we're just having it be a mask into our color setting, and there we go. Okay, so the two kind of key nodes that we're using here is we're using a curvature node, and then we're amplifying it through an OSL called a lift, and then we're running it through colors here, but later we're going to run it through shaders. Now another thing that I do periodically is this is a nice even, I want to break it up some. So what I'll do is I can bring some kind of a map in here, like maybe let's get a noise. So what we're going to do initially is to get this noise the right size, we're just going to run it directly in and see what our size is here. And it's really big. So I'm going to go for maybe fractal. Let's bring it down to maybe about, I don't know, let's say 5. And let's do a region render. Speed up our process here. Okay. And that's looking pretty good. I might play with turbulence. Let's go up a little bit bigger. Oh, yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is put our color back in, and then this, I'm going to run it into my bias over here. Matter of fact, before we do that, let's go ahead and just render this. We'll see we're back to our purple and our pink. And now we're going to run this into our bias. And then what it's going to do is break this up to be more of a grunge that's on there. So instead of being smooth kind of smoke that's in there, it's going to be kind of a grunge. So what we're going to do is make two node structures in here. Okay, one for the dust and one for the grunge. So we're just going to hold down our, let's take these two nodes and let's hold down our shift key. And then what we're going to be doing here is not run the bias in here. And then what we're doing is this one would be straight through, so this would be dust. And then this one would be our grunge. Okay. All right, so that's what I've done down here. Okay. Is I've got my noise, and this is my grime noise. Grime noise. And then there's my curvature with my grime. Okay. Then I copied it, and here's the same thing again, and I've got my little amplifier in here. Now another thing that I'm doing in here in on my grime noise is I'm doing a RGB ramp in here. Okay, this is where I'm clamping it. So let's go ahead and just delete these, and we'll just go off the ones I've already made. Okay, so now when I go into here, what I've done is I've clamped this so I can control how hard or soft the edge is. And I forgot my, this is my lift. Got to put it back in there. Okay. Okay, so I've got my intensity node back in here. And what's going on? Okay, that was weird. Okay, so then I've got to turn it up. So I don't know. We'll just try maybe 6. And then our grunge will start coming in there. Now this mix RG, no, I'm sorry, not the mix RG, but this edge clamp is just like our output node that we had used in my other videos. So we have an output node right here, and this is where we're coming in and we're going to clamp something. So we're doing this kind of thing. That's what this RGB, that's what this is doing, okay? Because since this is an Arnold node, I can't go into a max output. So this is Arnold's version of this. And that's what I'm doing. Okay, so that gets our grunge in there. Okay, so then I've got the grunge version, okay, and then I've got the dirt version. So this is my dirt, this is my grunge. I'm mixing them both together here. So when I put these together, I'm mixing these two together so I can put them both in here. And then as soon as we do that, we're going to want to control the intensity of these. So I put another lift in front of those right here. And let's do this and turn off that. And so now this is the control that if I want to increase this, then I just can increase that, and it's going to increase the amount that's in there. And then of course I can blend these however I want. So that's my initial kind of grunge node. Okay, so we might want to save these. So I've got my material library up here. And let's take that out. And let's open my material library. Okay, so I could, let's make sure this is all named, grunge noise, grime, and intensity gain for my grunge, and so I can put that node in there. Okay, this is my dust node, intensity gain for the dust, so I can put that in there. So these are nodes that I have made now that I can use. And then this is my master node of them together. I can put that in there too. So I have a master node. So that makes it nice that later on for another piece of metal, I can go in and go, okay, here's this node. I've already got it made. Okay, so, and then you'll see that little asterisk up there means this has not been saved. So I need to make sure that I go in here and I right click and go save. All right. All right, enough of the pink and blue. We're going to go back to our objects over here, and I want to make sure I turn off everything off of these so we're just getting the raw. And so now when I assign this and I come in here and render, then we're going to get the metal with the dirt on it. So you'll see it's more subtle the way it shows up. That's why you want all these controls where you can make it more intense and everything. Okay, let's just deal with the grunge on here right now, the dirt. So we're just going to render that on here. Normally I don't like things to be solid color, so I want my dirt to vary. Okay. To do that, what I've done is made a cellular. So I put a cellular on here on the base color, and then I want these two colors to be the same. So instead of having to go back and changing these all the time when I want to change the color, I put a color map to drive both of these. So this is a both of these are max nodes. Okay, this is a color ramp. I put my color in here. This will default to a 2.2 gamma. You want it to be a 1. And then when I put this on here, let me turn it back on, then it's going to break this surface up and it's going to put some slight patterns in it. And that's what I want it to be broken up, so that when it's being dirt and stuff, that it's broken up a little bit. So that's the dirt. Okay, so all right, so what else do I got going in here? All right, so one of the things that I wanted to do was I want to be able to break up I want to be, okay, let's go for a bump. So what I want to be able to do is to control this grunge as a bump. And so for right now, let's just create a gray shader we're going to put on it so we can just see the bump. And so then we'll put this into the bump slot, and we'll kick this up high, like 10. And let's render the whole thing. And so what we're going to get is a subtle bump along these edges where the grunge is. Now I'm only running the grime in there, okay, this grimy stuff. I don't want bump for my dirt. I only want bump for my kind of grungy stuff in here, okay? So I'm only using this node to get that stuff in there. Okay, the other thing that I want to be able to do is we've got this intensity setting here, okay? So I can put this in to increase this intensity. However, this is also controlling the amount of dirt is on there, and this is the amount of dirt, and I want to be able to control the amount of bump separate. So I put a separate intensity. So I just kind of cloned this one. So this is the one that controls the intensity of the color, and this one's on the bump. So then I put that one in. And then that's controlling the bump. And let's do a region. Oh, wrong shader. There we go. Okay. And then I can increase the intensity of how much this is chewing up to create some textural to the edge of that. And then the other thing is, according to if I have this bump set to a plus or a negative, when it's a plus, it'll seem like stuff that's on the top of it, like it's stuck on top of it, like dirt and oils have kind of clung to it and it's on top. If I want it to be more like it's etched in, if I put this to a minus, then when it renders, it'll look more like it's something that's been dinged and etched into it. So it's just according to what the look you want. Do I want it to look like, well, the edge has been banging up against things and it's kind of etching into it? Or is this like it's a mechanical piece and some oil has congealed on it and it's on the top? And that's just, you just have to determine what the look you want. But that's how you determine that, either a minus or a positive on top of that. So this will add to, we'll go ahead and put this back on, and then we'll go ahead and turn our bumps back on. And now we'll see that we've got the dirt on there, and then we've got bump on there as well. And we can see this. If I go back over to Photoshop, you can see this, that I've got the bump in there, and I've got the dirt and grime in there, and there's where it's coming in. Okay, so what else did I do? Okay, so I also came in here and I wanted to break up this dirt grime control that we're doing for the blending in here. I wanted to, and I need to go here, copy this, and paste it here. Okay, so what I wanted to do was to break up the surface. So I wanted to break it up, and I'll show you what this is going to do without having to go through the rendering process of it. It'd be easier to show it on this painted surface. So here is the grunge on there with its base. Once I run this mask there, you'll see that it's adding a little bit of coloration in here, and it's breaking up. So this doesn't seem more like a stripe. Here's another one with the same setting but a different phase on it, and you'll see how some of this drops out here. So how I'm doing that is I'm using a smoke, and then I am clamping it, and we can look at this. We'll just put it on our metal here. I'll assign that. You'll see. So this, I'm using this as a breakup mask so that the dirt and grime aren't like little stripes around everything. It's breaking it up. So I'm using that as a mask. So I'm putting these into another mix. So we've got this that we were using before as our mask. I'm putting it into a mix, and then I'm putting this in here. Now I want to be able to control how much of this is in here. So what I'm doing is putting the same color that's in the shader. So this is the shader. I'm putting the same color in here, and that way as it breaks it up, it'll add the color back onto it. And so this, and we need to turn that off of there. And then what it'll do is it'll break some of this up, so this does not seem more like too much like a stripe. It's breaking it up so that it's some places it's on there, some places it's not. I'm using this with a clamp, so I can drag this to the left, it's more white, drag it to the right, it's more black, according to how much. Plus, the other thing that's cool about it is I have a phase in here. So if I just change the phase, it changes where it's aligning and where it's masking out those colors in there. And then the last thing I did was, I'll show you this. I'm just going to put the metal shader on it right now. So right off the bat, the metal shader is consistent sheen across it. Okay, it's all a consistent sheen. But I wanted to break this up so that it's not a consistent sheen. So what I can do is put this output node of this breakup node. I can use it again. I can put that into my roughness right here, and then it's going to control the roughness of the piece. And what that's going to do is make some places really glossy and other places not as glossy. But I want to control how much gloss, which I could do. I could go in here and change the color in here, change the white, but then that's going to affect my bump and stuff too. So what I did was I ran it into another RGB, and then I dialed in white. And so as that is used for my roughness, as I add more white into it, then it's going to be more dull, and as I turn this down and add more of the top into it, then it'll be glossier. So this allows me to control how much is going on here. Okay, so let me just, oops, turn my roughness back on, and we'll render this. Okay, this is straight coming through. So you'll see some areas are really reflective. Anywhere that's white is going to be dull, and anywhere that's black is going to be reflective because it's in roughness. White is on, black is off. So anywhere that this procedure goes on here that's black, it's going to be 100% glossy. Anywhere that it's white, it's going to be dull. Well, I want to control that more. So all I did was I ran it into this RGBA, and then this allows me to control the percentage of the white that's in here. So now the surface is going to be, some parts are going to be a little bit glossier and other parts are going to be a little bit more matte. And of course this can all be done with paint also. I mean, I'm doing it with the metal because what I want to be able to do is I'm using my technique of with the vertex plate, vertex painting, to be able to control the painted surfaces, and then I'm going to use this shader to control the metal surfaces, and then I can make variations of this by changing the color of the metal so that the metal is different colors on things. And that's pretty much my node structure. Get off of that one. And so we ended up with this. And then I can do just change the metal to paint, and then I can have a paint version of this. And I really wanted this to be broken up a little bit more, so I did another render where I just changed the phase of that procedural, and you'll see that gave it a different look by just changing the phase to where it's being lined up. So we can do it as metal, and we can also use this for a painted surface, though I'm really mostly generating it to be for a metal surface. And then I can alter, I can make copies of this node and alter the coloration of the metal to get different kinds of metals, and then I can adjust how much sheen I want of them. But this is a nice procedural that now I can so let's get these out of our way. We can go here and let's clean it up. And I'm going to, matter of fact, I'm going to tell this to be hide unused nodes. Hide unused nodes. So and then I can put this in here, which I already have it in here. It's right up here. And then I can use this over and over again. Okay, now by the way, just so you know, in order to have two versions, like if I want to use this the same node, but I want to make it a different color for a different thing, okay, you can't just clone this, okay, you can't hold it down and clone it. What you want to do is just bring a new one in. Okay, and then give it a new name. So we can call this number 2, this different metal. And then I can come in and change, you know, what kind of metal this is. have the same thing going on, but really things that I can do right off the bat and leave it pretty much the same. If I go to my noise, okay, I've got a phase. So if I change the phase, doesn't matter what the number is, 231, it doesn't really matter, just as long as it's a different number. I can go to this smoke, I can change its phase, and so now the patterning will be different on this one than it is on that one, and so now I have another metal. So this is a really quick way that I can really quickly, once I make this metal, I can really quickly have it be different kinds of metals. Can change up the dirt color, can change it however I want. The thing about it is the dirt color has got to be pretty, it's kind of subtle, and so when you're putting the dirt on there, it's according to what you're doing. See, when I put the dirt on the, let's go back over here to Photoshop. So here the dirt that's kind of subtle, looks pretty good. When I go over here, this dirt is really jumping out at me. So this is where I would want to adjust the color of that to be less noticeable, so it's not so much in my face, okay? So that's why you have this one color node, which will adjust both of these at the same time, and I can make this lighter or darker based on whatever I need for the project. Okay, hopefully that kind of gives you option on for your metals where you can create something that'll be really nice and can knock out a bunch of metal parts by just dropping this on things, because it doesn't need mapping coordinates. This doesn't need any mapping coordinates. It's all based on the curvature of the object. Wherever the object has hard edges, which is where dings would happen and where dirt would build up in the crevices, this will do it all automatically. Okay, hopefully that helps you guys. Thank you very much.